So what do these two books have in common? Nothing. They have absolutely nothing in common. But what I want to talk about in this video is I want to teach you how you can think about using assets to pay you income rather than exchanging time for money. How can you use time for assets? And what am I working on right now to allow myself to do that? And I wanted to put that out here in the community to get your feedback. But I think for a lot of you, because I've looked at a lot of the comments in different threads, a lot of you are struggling with the concepts here about where you should spend your time. And I know there's a lot of people who are watching this channel. In fact, you're probably watching this channel right now and you're looking to make extra income. Now, the problem is when you go on YouTube or Google, whatever, and you type in, make money or make extra money, whatever, you get dosed with like how to do Shopify or, ClickFunnels or Amazon, whatever, and all this shit. And I want to just cut straight through that. And I want to talk about, what I believe in and what my business partners, Chris and John, believe in as well. And I want to give you some background about how, if you're in that position that I just mentioned, how you can think about that. So if you are in that position, if you're in a position where you're either part-time and you want to make extra money, or you're full-time in a job and you want to make extra money and you're trying to figure out how to do it, you think arbitrage might be the way to do it, etc., this video is definitely for you. If you're one of the viewers who you already have 7 figures, and I know because I've met some of you guys already, you're already doing very well in business, etc., you probably know all this stuff already, but I know that you're going to make up a smaller group on this channel. So for you guys there who are looking to make extra money, this is probably the most important video you're ever going to watch because you might not know these concepts. So the first thing I want to say is I was presented with these 2 books when I was 17 years old. So my Uncle Mike at the time, I had gone to South Africa and he said, what are you going to do with your life now? You finished school, what are you going to do? You're going to go to university, etc. And I said, well, Uncle Mike, I really don't know. I don't know what I want to do. That's why I've come back to South Africa. I wanted to get my head together and figure out what to do with my life. And we're going to start talking about the assets in a second, by the way, but I want to finish this very important point. So he said, well, what are you good with? I said, well, I'll tell you what I'm not good with. I said, there's 2 things I'm really bad with. I'm bad with money and I'm bad with women. And he sort of gave me this look of just pure and utter pity, like, oh my God, like, God help you, So he went away to his library and he came back with these 2 books. And he presented them in front of me and he said, pick one. And I had to make a choice. What choice do you think I made? When I saw the hook on the front cover of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not, I was hooked immediately. I was thinking, I gotta know that. Like, my family aren't rich. I'm not rich. Like, the rich must think differently. What do the rich think about? And I had all these preconceptions about money, like money's bad. And I was brought up with this mindset that was totally wrong. And so I picked the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. Now, granted, I am divorced, so I probably should have gone for the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but that's the book I went for. Now, that book absolutely changed my life, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad one, and I'm going to talk about why it changed my life right now. You see, it was quite funny because as a 17, 18-year-old kid, I read that book. I knew that I wanted to make money. I got into trading at the age of 17 because of that book. And because I wanted to get better on the side of trading, I started learning financials, how to read financials, etc. That got me into accounting, that got me into finance, that got me into leading big corporations. And then I discovered that actually, I'm not just that guy, I'm another guy as well. And I needed to explore this other side. And so that's really what that book led to. But this is what the book teaches. And I really want to just make it really, really clear here. I do not believe that we should all be striving to get big deals outside of our jobs, etc., to get customers, to, sell Shopify stuff, whatever, without knowing this model. You need to know this model. Every single person on this planet should be taught this at school. Unfortunately, schools don't teach that. And the reason why I believe that is because schools were created, or the general schools for the masses were created in a way to teach people how to work in factories. So if you're like me, if you went to your traditional school, you probably have the mindset about money on how to work in a factory, and you're wondering why you're struggling to break out of that and to earn much more money in your spare time. And it's only when I started breaking out of how I thought and how I thought about money that I started making some. And so this is really, really important. And I hope a lot of you guys have read this book. You're going to enjoy this bit as well. So, there's really two sides to thinking about money. You've got what's called your income statement. So I'm just going to put IS. This is your income statement. And you've got your balance sheet. And if you understand what I'm about to teach you over here, then you're going to understand the basics of accounting as well. You're really going to understand how accounts work and how to value and look at money. But you really want to think about money in these two separate tranches, your income statement and your balance sheet. Now, your income statement is all about the flow of money. Money coming in and money going out. It's really about the flow of money. How does money flow? The balance sheet is like taking a snapshot. I'm going to try and draw a camera here and hope that it actually looks like a camera. Okay. So the balance sheet is really about a snapshot. It's about taking a picture of what is your position with money at that point in time. So income statement and expenses measure the flow of money in a period of time. So this could be in the year of 2019. How much money came in, how much went out. That's your income statement. Your balance sheet is as at today or as at the end of 2019, whenever you take that picture, how much money were you holding? In other words, how much was in your bank? How much wealth did you have in property? What money did you owe to other people, etc. So that's really the difference between the two. And if you've got any questions and you want clarification on this, then put them in the comments, because it actually takes a lot of thought. Like, you're going to be doing a lot of hard work up here now. If you've never seen this before, you're going to be doing a lot of hard work up here, because I'm showing you money in a way you've never looked at it. A lot of you would have seen this before, so I'm kind of going to go at a little bit of a faster pace there. But if I don't cover something, you have a question, put it in the comments. So really, we're talking about income and expenses. Now, what most people do, this is their life. This is how they look at income and expenses. What they try to do is they say, okay, I want to make as much income as possible so that I can get a mortgage. And they think of their house like this. I'm going to have to pick a different color here. They picture their house like this asset. So they want as much income as possible so that they can get a mortgage from the bank and they can have their house. I'm going to just draw a house here on the balance sheet. So they can have this asset, which is their house. But what they fail to realize is that they actually owe the bank a lot of money. So they actually owe the bank, a mortgage to pay for that house. Now, mortgage in French, I think it stands for agreement until death. It's not the best thing in the world. So your house that you live in, where you're paying for the mortgage, arguably is actually a liability. Now, you guys got to know, I live in a rented property right now. I do not own this house. I live in the middle of nowhere in a really nice house that I have no debt, zero debt right now. And I plan to change that, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I've got no debt right now. You can have good debt, you can have bad debt. But this is what most people do. This is what 99% of people do. They try and improve their job, etc. Try and work their way to pay for this. And then what happens is they get to 60, 65, 70 years old, and they realize their pension's not worth shit. They probably got made redundant at 50 years old, and they struggle to find another job, because in reality, companies do prefer hiring people that are young guns for less. So they have to then go into a consulting job somewhere and hope they land that, which they can, but it's really hard to do, etc. So people are literally positioning themselves in a way that is negative. And I'm so sorry if that's you and you're in that situation. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's the truth in the way I see it. So a lot of people, they try to make this extra money so they can own their house. You don't own your house. The bank owns you. And I realized this when I went through my divorce, because I had this, £375,000 GBP, so what, $400,000 mortgage. And I was the only one now paying that off. And I felt suffocated. I was choking on it. It was hard. And so this is what happens with most people. They think of wealth as the house they own. And really, we need to stop thinking like that. So how should we think about our income? Because right now, your income, where does your income come from? This is probably ultimately the most important point that I need to make on this video right now. This is really important, and it's worth you really paying attention to this. because this bit is not shown in any book, but this is the truth. Time. Your income right now is coming from time. That's what's happening. It's all coming from time at the moment. So you are exchanging your time for money. Time is the only asset you really have. Now, as I said in a previous video, poor people sell their time. This is it. This is poor people. This is poor people selling their time for money. Rich people try to buy more time so they don't have to do that, because time is the only asset you really have. Look, man, you're going to die. I don't care if you're a Buddhist, a Christian, a Muslim, anything in between, or none of the above. The fact is you're going to die one day. That's a fact. And most people live their life caring about what other people think about them. So they don't really face the truth. But let's face the truth here. This is what you're doing. This is the rat wheel you're on right now. It's a problem. So how do rich people spend their time? Well, rich people don't do this. They don't pour time into income. They don't trade time for money. They trade their time to build assets. Now, why do they do that? Because what is an asset doing? And if the house you own isn't an asset, what is an asset? Well, there are actually many different types of assets. Property is one. And you say, well, Shaun, you just told me a house is not an asset. That's not true. If someone else is paying off that property, it's an asset. Let's say that you own a house outright and somebody else lives in it and they pay you rent for that house. That gives you income that you can spend on doing whatever you want. That's an asset. So what else is an asset? Well, a business is an asset. Let's say you're like me. You've gone through divorce. You've lost a ton of money. I lost like 100 grand. Actually, that's pounds. So that's like $130,000, whatever. You've lost a lot of money and you've had to learn the hard way. So if that's you and you're starting from the ground up, well, what can you do? You can build a business. And by the way, nothing generates as much cash flow as a business. Nothing. It's the number one asset. If you can get this right on the business side, you can generate cash. And when I started doing that, I started to feel less suffocated and more free. So a business pays an income. That's another asset. So let's just stick on, a few other things as well. You can also have investments. Crypto, for example, may have paid a lot of you. In fact, I know it paid a lot of you in income. So that was an asset. So your investments, your business, your real estate, your property, whatever, those are all assets. So the real question is, how can you exchange time? So this is your time over here. How can you exchange time for assets? Well, you need to get skilled. So the way to do that is and I'm going to steal from Dan Locke here because I think he really illustrates it the best. You really need to go and follow this model. The first thing you need is skill. And most people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear, how can I get Shopify set up and, be financially free? And then they wonder why they broke their whole freaking life. You need skill. The next thing that you do is you build a business with that skill. And that doesn't mean you have to be in the business. It means that, because you have that skill, you know who to hire and you know how to manage them to do that and run that business for you. And this could just be you as a freelancer, by the way. But you can get a business going. And that is actually a lot more straightforward than people think when you know what to do. Once you have a business going and that's paying you enough cash, then what you want to do is funnel that cash into investments, and those investments pay you even more money. So it's really this triangle of skill to business to investments. That's how you want to think about it. And so the question is, well, how do we do that now? How do I go and actually do that? I have no money. So if you've got no money and you want assets, this is how to do it. You either get skilled and you build a business, and this is what I've been coaching people on this week. I've been doing a course this week teaching people how to do stuff. Or you use what's called OPM. This is going to blow your mind. So if you've watched so far, well done, because this is really valuable and I think you're going to get a lot from this. You use OPM. Now OPM is a liability because it's debt. What is OPM? It sounds like I'm saying opium. I'm not telling you to smoke drugs, don't worry. OPM is other people's money. And whose other people's money do we want to use? The banks. So you can use the bank's money to buy a business By the way, buying a business is a minefield in its own right. And this is something I'm working on and learning myself right now. So I can't really coach you on how to do it because I'm learning it myself. I'm actually doing this myself right now. But use other people's money to buy an asset that pays you an income. And the other thing, you guys, you really want to do, because a lot of you are in situations, like I get comments where people are trying to use very, very low amounts of money to trade arbitrage and stuff. Don't do that. Please don't do that. I need to sleep at night. And if I think people are misusing trading and they're just gonna make themselves broke, it makes me not want to have the tool out there. I want to know people are using it with savvy. So what a lot of people are doing with their income and expenses, and let's just keep the same colors going here, is they've got this income and they've got this amount of expenses. And what's happening here is they're just getting into debt. So this vicious cycle, they got a little bit of income, they get to keep none of it because it's all going off to pay off their liabilities. Liabilities are things you owe. So that goes to the bank. And their expenses are too high because they think that they need to have the best car, the best house. They need to keep up the status with their friends and the Joneses and whatever. And actually, you know what? I actually think that's partly bullshit. So I'm going to retract that a bit. You know why people's expenses are so high? Because we get short-term gratification when we buy shit. We feel like we've achieved something when I buy something off Amazon. We feel like we get this short-term dopamine hit where we feel like we've achieved shit. You know, I'll tell you the interesting thing, and I'm going to summarize this video now. The interesting thing that people do, and we're all guilty of it, and the more you work in the business world, the more you shed off all this shit, to be honest, is they favor buying shit, so they favor spending more money on expenses to building shit and doing hard work. And building shit, like a business, that's an asset. Yet we're inherently lazy in human nature, so we don't want to do this. But we're more than happy to play here. We're happy to play here, but we don't want to play here, and we wonder why we're broke. It's not the way to do it. So I started getting a lot more results where I'm working part-time now on the business side as well. I can tell you that I'm flat out working. You guys know because I am desperate to get to the emails you've been sending me, and I'm going to go through them all today and reply to all of them. But you know, I'm flat out in this area now. And people go, oh, Shaun, you should slow down. You know, you're working too hard. Do I look like I'm working too hard? I'm having the time of my freaking life because I'm getting the same high, if not more, in playing in this area now that I used to get when I was playing in this area, doing dumb shit like watching Netflix and YouTube all day and buying shit on Amazon. Playing here is what's really working for me. Now, I'm not some superstar, guys, but what I do know is that by building assets with your time, putting your time and energy into assets, you're going to be much, much, much better off than exchanging time for income. So that's number one. Number two, for the arbitrage traders out there, you know, I do believe in what I'm talking about here. I strongly believe in building skill. And one of the things I love to do, which is why I do this YouTube channel, one of the things I love to do is to teach. I just love it. It just pours out of me. I feel like anything I learn, I have to communicate it. And so what I'm looking to do is actually to teach people how to build their own arbitrage skill. So I want to teach, this is what I want, and you tell me if you fit into this, and maybe this could work. I want to get together a small group of people who are as in love with crypto as I am, and who want to learn programming and who want to learn it in a way where they apply it straight away and directly to building their own arbitrage tool. So they can see exactly how I build crypto wizards and they can build their own arbitrage tool. And I'm thinking about doing like a 2-week intensive course, 1 hour per day, 5 days a week. So 10 hours intensive course with like follow-up Q&A, all of that stuff to make sure you guys get going. So if anyone is interested in actually building their own asset and building a skill at the same time that they can sell in the marketplace. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to want to take me up on this because it's hard, because now you know you've got to commit to playing in assets and you've got to break some of your patterns of thinking. But if you want that, I'm prepared to give up my time to work with you on that. So I'm happy to teach and train a small group. So let me know in the comments if that's something you want. I don't care what you put in the comments. Just say like, hey, include me in, or yes, mate, or whatever you want to put in there. And then what I'll do is organize like a call between me and you, and we can discuss whether this could be a good fit. And then once I have a small group put together, I'll do the live training, and it will be a done with you approach where we get to building. So let me know what you think about that. That's the only way I can think to give to you right now. But if that's something you're keen on, just put it in the comments. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is something I really believe in and I feel very passionate about, as you can tell. Please let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk with you soon.